I want you to close your eyes for like just a second and really try to picture a scene with me. We're traveling back in time and, well, across the globe to a city called Rosario.
Right, down in Argentina.
Exactly. It's the late 1990s. The streets are super dusty. The air is just thick with humidity. And on this battered, uneven dirt field, a bunch of kids are playing this totally chaotic game of soccer.
Just a massive flying ball of elbows and knees,
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. And right in the middle of all that, there's a tiny 13-year-old boy. And when I say tiny, I mean it in the most literal sense possible. He's only 4 feet 6 inches tall.
Wow.
Yeah, he's so small that if you were just, walking by, you'd probably write him off before he ever even touched the ball. You'd think he was a team mascot or, I don't know, maybe a little brother who accidentally wandered out onto the pitch.
Which is a really striking image, especially when you consider where sports were heading at that specific time.
Right.
Like, you look at him, and your brain immediately registers, too small, too fragile, not remotely athletic enough. In a sport that was rapidly becoming obsessed with engineered physicality, taller, faster, stronger players, this kid was a glaring anomaly.
He was a whisper in a room full of shouts.
Exactly. But then, you fast forward a couple of decades, and that exact same tiny kid is standing on the manicured grass of the most famous, most intimidating stadiums in Europe.
And the biggest, strongest, fastest defenders in the world are literally falling over their own feet trying to stop him.
Yeah, it's wild. His peers, the greatest athletes on the planet, aren't just complimenting him, they're calling him an alien.
Like literally saying he isn't from this planet.
It's the ultimate paradox, isn't it? The boy who was deemed too small to play becomes the man who is entirely too big for the sport. And well, that's exactly why we're tracing this complete chronological timeline today.
Which is our mission for this deep dive.
Right. We're looking at the man they call the greatest of all time, Lionel Messi. We're going step by step from that tiny kid with a growth hormone deficiency in Rosario all the way to the global icon who is dominating the 2026 World Cup right now.
Right now, as we speak, in North America.
Exactly.
And we are going to take our time with this. I want to make sure we speak slowly, clearly, and really unpack the mechanics of this journey for you, the listener. We're going to explore not just what he achieved, but, how and why he achieved it.
Because his life isn't just a story about sports.
No, not at all. It's a masterclass in human resilience. It's this deeply complex study in overcoming severe physical limitations, carrying the staggering psychological weight of an entire nation on your shoulders, and somehow, through all that crushing pressure, maintaining a pure, childlike joy for the game.
Yeah, that joy is so central to his whole identity.
It really is. Also, quick note for anyone listening who might not be a diehard soccer fan, don't worry at all. I'll be weaving in some clear, simple analogies for the European and South American football terms we encounter along the way.
That'll be super helpful.
Yeah, I want to make sure you get a truly foundational understanding of the beautiful game.
And that context is crucial because to understand the impenetrable mental fortress that Messi built later in his career, you first have to understand the sheer physical hurdles he had to clear just to step onto a professional pitch.
Right.
We really have to start with his childhood in Rosario.
Yeah, and here's a detail from our sources that completely caught me off guard when I was prepping for this. He was born on June 24th, 1987, and his full name is Luis Lionel Andres Messi. But he was actually named after the American pop star Lionel Richie.
Oh, it's totally true.
That is just wild to me.
His mother, Celia, was a massive fan of Lionel Richie's album Dancing on the Ceiling, which, had come out just a year prior to his birth. So the greatest soccer player in history shares a namesake with the guy who sang All Night Long.
I love that so much.
It's a wonderful, deeply humanizing little quirk of history that kind of grounds this mythical figure right from the start.
So little Leo grows up in Rosario, which is a city with a fierce, deeply ingrained soccer culture. He spends his early years just, tagging along with his 2 older brothers playing in the streets.
And the street game in Argentina is famously physical.
Super physical. But what's fascinating is that he's completely unintimidated by the older, bigger boys. His talent is so undeniable that by the age of 8, he's recruited to join the youth system of a local professional club called Newell's Old Boys.
Right.
But this is exactly where biology steps in and nearly ends the story before it even begins.
Yeah. Around this time, doctors and coaches start to notice that he isn't just small for his age. He's recognizably, concerningly smaller than every other kid in his cohort.
Right.
So after a series of medical tests, They hand his family a devastating diagnosis, which was a growth hormone deficiency.
Wow.
Yeah, this wasn't just about being a late bloomer. This was a medical condition that literally restricted his body's ability to grow. By the time he was 13, he was stuck at 4 feet 6 inches.
And the treatment for this is just brutal for a kid. It requires nightly injections of synthetic growth hormones straight into his legs.
Every single night.
I mean, just imagine being a young, painfully shy kid and having to administer a needle to yourself every single night just to have a chance at a normal height. But from what our sources indicate, the physical pain of the needles wasn't even the primary hurdle, was it?
No, not at all. It was the crushing financial toll it took on his family. His parents, Jorge and Celia, were working-class people. The medical regimen cost several $100s a month.
Which was a lot back then.
Huge. You have to place this in the context of the Argentine economy in the late 1990s, which was spiraling toward a massive historic collapse.
Right, the economy was in terrible shape.
So that monthly medical bill was a staggering, debilitating sum. It soon proved absolutely impossible for his parents to afford the medication on their own. So they turned to the local clubs in Argentina, including the mighty River Plate in Buenos Aires, who definitely saw his brilliant talent.
But they said no.
Every single club looked at the balance sheet and refused to foot the medical bill. They saw a prodigy, sure, but they evaluated him as a financial risk, an expensive gamble, and a kid who might never grow big enough to survive the professional game.
Man, it's just a stark reminder of how fragile talent really is. I mean, his dream is essentially evaporating purely because of money and biology.
Exactly.
But then a lifeline appears from across the Atlantic Ocean. The legendary Spanish club FC Barcelona gets wind of this kid. And this leads to what is arguably the most famous scouting moment in the history of sports, the napkin contract.
It sounds like pure sporting mythology, but it actually happened.
That's so crazy.
Barcelona's technical director at the time, a man named Charlie Rexach, had heard the whispers about this Argentine prodigy. But Barcelona is a massive, highly structured European institution.
Right.
They had strict club policies against signing foreign players at such a young age, especially ones that required complicated, expensive medical treatments. Bringing a 13-year-old from South America to Europe was practically unheard of.
So if we're looking for an analogy here for you listening, think of FC Barcelona like a massive, risk-averse, blue-chip tech corporation. They don't usually invest in a 13-year-old kid's garage project located on another continent.
Right, especially when that project needs immediate, heavy funding just to keep the lights on.
Exactly. But Rexach finally sees Messi play in person, and he's so completely blown away by the raw, kinetic genius he's witnessing that he decides to go completely rogue against club policy.
He had to.
So he's having lunch with Messi's representatives at the Pompeia Tennis Club, and he realizes he needs to lock this kid down immediately, like right that second, before anyone else in Europe realizes what's sitting in front of them.
And he doesn't have official legal documents on him?
Nope. So he grabs a paper napkin off the table, and he writes up a binding contract right there over lunch. It's exactly like a billionaire VC funding a startup seed round on a bar coaster.
That is the perfect way to frame it. And the terms of that napkin were essentially this summer. Barcelona would sign him to their academy, and crucially, they would cover every single cent of his medical bills.
Wow.
But the catch was monumental. The 13-year-old boy and his family had to pack up their entire lives, leave their extended family and their culture behind, and move across the Atlantic Ocean to Spain, just so he could train at Barcelona's famous youth academy, known as La Masia.
I really want you, the listener, to put yourself in his shoes for a moment. You're 13, you're incredibly introverted, you're still undergoing these nightly medical treatments, and you're moving thousands of miles away to a country where you don't know anyone.
Into a hyper-competitive academy designed to ruthlessly weed out weakness.
Yeah, the psychological leap is just immense.
It really is, and it's a part of his story that often gets glossed over. Our sources note that he suffered from intense, paralyzing homesickness in those early months in Spain.
Which makes total sense.
He was a quiet kid thrown into a shark tank filled with the absolute best young players in Europe. And because of his size, the initial reaction from his peers wasn't awe. It was brutal dismissal.
Kids can be so mean.
Gerard Pique, a famous, towering defender who was in the academy with Messi at the time, was already over a foot taller than him. Pique is quoted in our sources saying, "We'd written this kid off before he'd kicked a ball."
Ouch.
Yeah, they looked at his tiny frame, his quiet demeanor, and just assumed he didn't belong in their world.
But then, as Pique went on to say, then he kicked a ball. The dipes were gone.
Exactly.
Because once his medical treatments took hold and his body began to grow, ultimately reaching about 5 feet 7 inches, his sheer, unadulterated talent just took over. He was a player with such a low center of gravity that it actually became his superpower.
Oh, absolutely.
It allowed him to change direction at speeds that taller defenders simply couldn't physically match.
Precisely. His perceived weakness became his greatest biomechanical advantage. The ball seemed tethered to his left foot.
Like it was glued there.
Yeah. And he moved through the junior system at lightning speed. By the time he was 16, in the year 2003, he made his unofficial debut for the senior team in a friendly match in Porto. And then, on May 1st, 2005, at just 17 years old, he scored his first official goal, becoming the youngest player to ever score for the franchise at that time.
But here's where I want to push back a bit, or, at least ask a critical question. It's one thing to be a child prodigy dominating other kids in an academy. But how does a shy 5'7" teenager survive, let alone thrive, in a senior locker room full of grown men, hardened veterans, and global superstars?
It's a vital question.
Right, because we see prodigies flame out all the time because they get crushed by the ego and politics of a professional locker room.
The transition from academy to first team is literally a graveyard for young talent. But the answer for Messi was mentorship. And not just any mentorship specifically, the mentorship of a Brazilian superstar named Ronaldinho.
Oh.
Yeah, who was widely considered the best, most magical player in the world at the time. Ronaldinho took the young Messi under his wing. He didn't view the kid as a threat to his own throne. He viewed him as the inevitable future.
That shows so much character from Ronaldinho.
It really does. In fact, Ronaldinho later said that the most enjoyable part of his entire glittering career was watching the early years of Leo Messi.
That's high praise.
He even famously declared to the Barcelona management that when he retired, the club should retire his number 10 shirt because nobody could possibly follow what this kid was going to do.
That is an astonishing level of respect from an active legend, and it gave Messi the psychological safety net to just play his game, and boy, did he play.
He definitely did.
This ushers in an era of dominance that reshaped the sport. By 2009, he didn't just win La Liga. And for those new to the sport listening, La Liga is Spain's grueling 38-game domestic marathon where the team with the most points at the end of the year is crowned champion.
Right.
So he didn't just win that, he actually swept the entire continent. He led Barcelona to a historic treble.
Which is huge.
Yeah, let me explain what a treble is. That means in a single season, they won La Liga, their domestic knockout tournament, and the Champions League, which is the ultimate continent-wide tournament pitting the very best teams from England, Italy, Germany, and Spain against each other. Winning all three is basically the holy grail of soccer.
And for orchestrating that treble, he wins his first Ballon d'Or in 2009.
Okay, let's break that down too. The Ballon d'Or translates to the Golden Ball. It's an annual individual award given to the single best soccer player on the planet. Think of it as like the MVP award for global soccer or the Academy Award for Best Actor.
That's a great comparison. Winning it cemented his status, and crucially, it made him the first Argentine player to ever win the award.
Wow, the very first.
Yeah, and this immediately ignited heavy, inescapable comparisons in his homeland to the great Diego Maradona, who was essentially viewed as a deity in Argentina.
Oh, sure.
Maradona himself said at the time, "I see him as very similar to me. He's a leader and is offering lessons in beautiful football."
But I want to fast forward slightly to the year 2012. Because what he did in 2012 just defies logic. It sounds like a typographical error in the record books.
It really does.
In that single calendar year, playing for Barcelona and Argentina, Lionel Messi scored 91 goals.
91 goals. It's a number that requires context to fully appreciate.
Please give us the context.
To understand the statistical anomaly of this, you have to look at history. The previous record was held by a legendary, ruthless German striker named Gerd Müller, who scored 85 goals in the year 1972.
Okay.
That record stood untouched for exactly 40 years. Most experts believed it was mathematically impossible to break in the modern era. Modern defenses are faster, they are highly organized, and tactical video analysis means teams know exactly how to counter their opponents.
Right, so how did he actually do it? I mean, how do you score 91 times against modern elite defenses?
It was a combination of his physical peak, a deep understanding of geometry on the pitch, and a massive tactical innovation by his manager at the time, Pep Guardiola.
Okay, what was the innovation?
Guardiola deployed Messi in a position called the false nine. So traditionally, a number 9 is a big, strong striker who stays high up the pitch, right up against the center backs. But as a false nine, Messi would start high up, but then drop deep into the midfield to receive the ball.
Oh, I see.
This completely confused defenders. If the huge center backs followed him into the midfield, they left the massive gaps behind them for Messi's teammates to run into.
Right.
But if they stayed back, they gave Messi, who's the greatest dribbler in the world, time and space to turn and run full speed at them.
It was a lose-lose situation for the defense.
Exactly. It was an unsolvable tactical puzzle. He averaged a goal every 4 days for an entire calendar year. It's a level of sustained, ruthless efficiency that literally breaks the mathematical models of the sport.
Unsurprisingly, he wins his 4th consecutive Ballon d'Or that year. It's a sequence of triumphs that makes him look completely invincible. But as we know, the higher you climb, the harder the reality check.
Yeah, inevitably.
And we must look at the dark cloud that gathered over him off the pitch, because it really shatters that image of the innocent kid who just loved kicking a ball. In July 2016, a Barcelona court convicted Messi and his father, Jorge, of 3 counts of tax fraud.
Yes, this is a highly complex and deeply damaging moment in his timeline.
What exactly happened?
The court found that the Messi operation had used a well of shell companies located in tax havens like Belize and Uruguay to hide millions of euros in income derived from Messi's image rights.
Wow.
Now, during the trial, Messi maintained a defense of total ignorance. He stated repeatedly that he just played football, he signed where he was told to sign, and he completely trusted his father and his lawyers to handle the financial empire.
But the court didn't buy that it absolved him of responsibility, right?
No, they didn't.
They ultimately sentenced both of them to 21 months in prison. Now, if you're listening to this and scratching your head thinking, wait a minute, Lionel Messi never spent a day in a Spanish prison.
Yeah.
Let me explain how the Spanish legal system handles this, because it's a really fascinating quirk of their law.
Yeah, it's very different from the U.S.
Very different. In Spain, if you are convicted of a nonviolent crime, and it is your very first offense, and the sentence handed down is under 2 years, so anything under 24 months, the sentence is automatically suspended.
Exactly. It operates essentially like probation. Because his sentence was carefully calculated at 21 months, he avoided jail time.
Okay.
He was, however, ordered to pay a massive fine of 2 million euros, alongside his father's 1.5 million euro fine. But the true cost was to his reputation.
It had to be a huge PR hit.
It introduced a heavy layer of real-world cynicism to his narrative. People were forced to view the Messi operation not just as a heartwarming family supporting a prodigy, but as a massive multinational corporate entity engaging in the exact same aggressive and illegal tax avoidance strategies as massive corporations.
Right. It proved that the boy from Rosario was now the center of a ruthless global financial machine. And this legal pressure is happening simultaneously with a deeply profound, almost tragic storyline playing out in his international career. We have to talk about the heavy burden of the sky blue and white stripes of the Argentine national team, because the contrast during this era is just staggering. With Barcelona, everything he touches turns to gold.
But with Argentina, the jersey seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds.
Exactly.
It's the central conflict of his entire career. And ironically, it started with incredible promise when he won the Under-20 World Cup in 2005. But the tone for his senior career was set in his very first appearance.
Oh, this story is brutal.
It really is. In August 2005, an 18-year-old Messi makes his debut for the senior Argentine national team in a friendly match against Hungary. He comes onto the pitch as a substitute full of nervous energy. And less than 2 minutes later, he is ejected from the game.
Right, he was shown a straight red card. And for those unfamiliar, the referee in soccer carries 2 cards to maintain order. A yellow card is a strict warning. But a red card means you have committed a severe foul, you are immediately ejected from the game, and your team is not allowed to replace you. You literally leave your team a man down for the rest of the match. It's incredibly punishing.
Very punishing.
So Messi comes on. A Hungarian player grabs his shirt and won't let go. Messi swings his arm backward to shake the guy off, catches the player in the face, and the referee pulls out a red card. Less than 2 minutes into his international career, he's walking off the pitch in tears.
It was a heartbreaking debut, and unfortunately it served as a dark omen for the decade of agonizing near misses that would follow.
Yeah.
The pressure in Argentina is unlike anything else. Soccer isn't just a sport there. It's intricately tied to national identity and pride. And the ghost-haunting Messi was always Diego Maradona.
Maradona won the World Cup for Argentina in 1986, right?
Exactly. He was a fiery, street-fighting, passionate warrior who visibly bled for the shirt. Messi, on the other hand, had left Argentina at 13. He was quiet, introverted, and lacked that explosive, screaming leadership style.
Which didn't go over well with the press.
Not at all. The narrative in the Argentine press became incredibly toxic. They questioned if he was Argentine enough. They accused him of saving his best performances for his European club while phoning it in for his country.
Which brings us to the agonizing climax of that pressure. The 2014 World Cup in Brazil. Argentina makes it all the way to the final. They are playing Germany. The tension across the globe is unbearable. The match goes into extra time, and Germany scores, winning the game 1-0.
Just devastating.
Messi is awarded the Golden Ball as the best player of the entire tournament, but there is a famous, haunting photograph from that night. It's an image of Messi walking up the stadium steps to collect his runner-up medal, pausing to stare blankly at the Golden World Cup trophy sitting on a pedestal just inches away from him.
A trophy he isn't allowed to touch.
Exactly. That image is burned into the memory of every Argentine.
And the psychological compounding of that loss was severe. 2 years later, in 2016, Argentina makes it to the final of the Copa America, which is the continental championship for South America.
Okay.
They play Chile. After a grueling, scoreless draw, it goes to a penalty shootout. And Messi, statistically the most reliable player on earth, steps up and launches his penalty kick over the crossbar.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Argentina loses another final.
The aftermath of that specific loss was his breaking point. In the mixed zone after the game, surrounded by reporters, a completely devastated, hollowed-out Messi announced his retirement from the national team.
I remember that.
He said, "I've tried 4 finals. It's not for me. The national team is over for me." I really want to unpack the psychology of that moment. Our sources provide a brilliant quote from him that sheds light on his internal state. He said, "I am competitive and I feel bad when we lose. You can see it in me when we've lost. I'm in a bad way. I don't like to talk to anyone."
It highlights the suffocating isolation of being a savior. When you are expected to single-handedly solve the emotional trauma of a nation and you repeatedly fall just short, the guilt is overwhelming.
Yeah.
He didn't retire because he didn't care. He retired because he cared too much, and the pain of failing his country was literally unbearable.
Now, he does eventually reverse that decision. The president of Argentina, the mayor of Buenos Aires, and millions of fans begged him to return, and he did, but the heartbreak didn't stop.
No, it kept going.
In the 2018 World Cup, they are knocked out in a chaotic 4-3 loss to France. Then, in the 2019 Copa America, they lose to Brazil in the semifinals. And Messi, who is usually so quiet and diplomatic, absolutely erupts.
Yeah, he lost it.
He heavily criticizes the referees to the media, basically implying the tournament is corrupt and rigged for Brazil. And for that outburst, he is slapped with a 3-game ban.
It showed us a completely different side of him. The frustration had boiled over into pure anger. He was a man desperate for a breakthrough, lashing out at a system he felt was failing him. We're going to leave him there for a moment, frustrated and desperate on the international stage. Because simultaneously, his club life, the one place that was always his sanctuary, is about to violently implode. The year is 2021, and the unthinkable happens. Lionel Messi leaves FC Barcelona.
It was an earthquake in the sporting world. It defied all logic. He'd been there for 17 seasons. He had won 34 titles. He scored 672 goals and provided 291 assists. He was Barcelona.
Right. So why on earth did he leave?
Well, it comes down to severe financial mismanagement and strict league rules. Over the previous several years, Barcelona's executives had essentially bankrupted the club by handing out massive, unsustainable contracts to other players.
Okay.
At the exact same time, the Spanish league, La Liga, enforces a strict salary cap.
To explain this simply for you listening, a salary cap is a hard budget constraint imposed by a league. It dictates the absolute maximum amount of money a team is legally allowed to spend on player salaries in a single year. And crucially, Messi's previous contract had expired. He was now a free agent, meaning he was legally free to sign a new contract with any team in the world. But he didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
In fact, he agreed to take a massive 50% pay cut to sign a new contract and stay at Barcelona. But because the club's debt was so astronomically high, even with Messi's massive pay cut, their total payroll was still over the La Liga salary cap limit.
The league simply refused to register his new contract. It was illegal under their financial rules. So on August 5, 2021, the club was forced to announce they couldn't keep him.
That press conference was so hard to watch.
The press conference that followed was heart-wrenching. He walked out to the podium, and before he could even speak a single word, he just broke down sobbing. His wife, Antonella had to hand him a tissue from the front row.
Yeah.
He finally managed to choke out the words, "This is really difficult for me after so many years spent here, being here my entire life. I'm not ready for this."
It was a brutal, non-consensual severing of a lifelong bond. He was forced out of his home not because his skills had declined, but because of spreadsheets, reckless spending, and accounting errors made by executives in suits. It deeply traumatized him.
So he's a free agent, and he has to find a new home immediately because the season is starting. 4 days later, he signs a 2-year contract with Paris Saint-Germain, known as PSG, in France.
Right.
On paper, it seems like a dream scenario. He reunites with his close friend and former Barcelona teammate Neymar, and he gets to play alongside the young, explosive French superstar Kylian Mbappé.
The media dubbed them the M&M trio Messi, Neymar, Mbappé. It was marketed as the most terrifying attacking trio in the history of the sport.
But it didn't work out that way, did it?
But reality is rarely played on paper. The team was fundamentally unbalanced. You had 3 superstar attackers who didn't want to play defense, which left the rest of the team completely exposed. While they easily won 2 French domestic league titles, League One, they failed completely in their main objective, which was winning the Champions League. They were knocked out in the round of 16 twice in a row.
And the cultural fit was terrible. The Parisian fans, specifically the hardcore ultras, never fully warmed up to him. They viewed him as a mercenary who didn't care about the Parisian badge. They actually booed him during home games, which is staggering.
Unimaginable, really.
And then near the end of his contract in the spring of 2023, things get really sour. He takes an unauthorized promotional trip to Saudi Arabia, fulfilling a lucrative sponsorship deal, and the club uses it as an excuse to make an example of him. They suspend him and fine him.
It effectively sealed his exit.
Yeah. He finished his stint in Paris with 72 games, 32 goals, and 34 assists. Very good numbers for a normal player, but viewed as a massive disappointment by his impossible standards.
The sources make it clear he was deeply unhappy in Paris. He felt disconnected from the fans, his family struggled to adapt to life in a hotel in a new city, and the fundamental joy of playing soccer was entirely absent. He was 36 years old, he was entering the twilight of his career, and he was at a massive crossroads.
Which brings us to the summer of 2023, and a decision that completely altered the landscape of global sports business.
There we go.
He's a free agent again. He has massive offers on the table. He actually tells Time magazine later that he strongly considered joining a Saudi Arabian team.
Oh, yeah.
The Saudi League was offering him a truly astronomical, mind-bending amount of money, reportedly up to $1 billion over a few years, to join his old rival Cristiano Ronaldo in the Middle East. But he turns it down. Instead, on June 7, 2023, he makes an announcement that shocks the world. He's going to America.
Yeah.
He signs with Inter Miami CF, a Major League Soccer club famously co-owned by David Beckham.
Now, to understand why this was such a seismic shift, we have to look at the financial architecture of Major League Soccer.
Which is very different from Europe.
Completely different. Unlike the massive European leagues where wealthy owners can spend whatever they want, MLS is a single-entity league with a very strict salary cap, designed specifically to maintain competitive parity and prevent teams from going bankrupt.
Right.
But they have a specific loophole called the designated player rule.
Okay, what is that?
Ironically, this rule was created back in 2007, specifically so the league could afford to sign David Beckham. It allows each team to sign up to 3 players whose massive salaries do not count against the team's salary cap limit.
Okay, so obviously Lionel Messi is a designated player. But to get him to turn down $1 billion from Saudi Arabia, the league had to get incredibly creative.
Very creative.
It wasn't just a big salary. He signed a 2.5-year deal worth roughly $150 million. But the base salary of $50 to $60 million a year was only part of the equation. MLS essentially made him a business partner.
Right.
They offered him unprecedented revenue sharing with Apple TV, who holds the 10-year global broadcasting rights for the entire league. Every time someone anywhere in the world buys an MLS season pass subscription on Apple TV, Messi gets a cut.
That's insane.
On top of that, Adidas offered him a cut of the profits from his jersey sales, and crucially, he was promised team equity upon his retirement. He will literally own a percentage of the Inter Miami franchise.
It is the most lucrative, complex, and innovative deal in the history of American soccer. And the return on investment was instantaneous.
We immediately saw what the business world dubbed the Messi effect.
Yes.
According to our sources, attendance at Inter Miami home games spiked by an astonishing 40% the highest jump in the league.
The ticket prices are where it gets truly insane, though.
Oh, yeah. The Athletic reported that the absolute cheapest season ticket prices for Inter Miami jumped from $485 to $884 the following year.
Almost double.
That is nearly double the price just for the cheapest seats in the stadium. And despite that massive aggressive price hike, the season tickets sold out months in advance. His pink Inter Miami jersey immediately became the top-selling jersey across the entire league. He literally changed the microeconomy of a sports league overnight.
But he didn't go to Miami just to sell pink shirts and Apple TV subscriptions.
Yeah.
He went to dominate. And he did, instantly.
Right out of the gate.
Yeah. Right out of the gate in the summer of 2023, he led Inter Miami, which was statistically the worst team in the league at the time, on a miraculous 12-match winning streak to capture the 2023 Leagues Cup, a tournament pitting MLS teams against Mexican League teams.
And as we follow the timeline forward into 2024 and 2025, his dominance in America only solidifies. He wins back-to-back Landon Donovan MVP awards for the league. Think about that. He's the only repeat MVP winner in MLS history.
Incredible.
In 2024, he leads Miami to set the all-time MLS points record, accumulating 74 points to win the Supporters' Shield, which is awarded to the team with the best regular season record. And then the absolute pinnacle of his American run happens on December 6, 2025.
The 2025 MLS Cup Final. It's Inter Miami against the Vancouver Whitecaps FC. Miami wins 3-1. Messi dictates the entire tempo of the game, provides 2 brilliant assists, and is named MVP of the final.
Amazing.
He brought a franchise that was the laughingstock of the league to its first ever league championship in just over 2 years.
The quote he gave after that championship game is so telling, especially when you compare it to his misery in Paris. He said, "The team made a huge effort. It was a very long year with many matches, and we were up to the task all season. This is the moment I had been waiting for, and that we as a team were waiting for. It's very beautiful for all of us. They deserved it."
Notice his use of the word beautiful. It's a stark contrast to the sterile, tense environment in Paris. In Miami, surrounded by a heavy Hispanic culture, playing with a few of his old Barcelona teammates who had also joined the club, he found joy again.
He found a place where he could smile on the pitch.
Exactly.
And that joy is actually the perfect bridge because we need to loop back in time slightly to see the full picture. While he was dealing with the immense drama of leaving Barcelona, moving to Paris, and then eventually orchestrating this move to Miami, something miraculous was finally happening on the international stage.
This is the turning point.
This is where the narrative flips, and the ghost of Diego Maradona is finally, definitively put to rest.
It started in the summer of 2021, right before he left Barcelona. The Copa America tournament was being held in Brazil. Argentina makes it to the final, and they are playing their eternal, bitter rivals, Brazil, inside the legendary Maracana Stadium in Rio de Janeiro.
Huge rivalry.
Massive. It's a bruising, physical match, but Argentina wins 1-0. It's Argentina's first major international title in 28 long, agonizing years.
Finally.
Messi ties for the top goal scorer of the tournament and is named the best player. Finally, after all the tears and the temporary retirements, he lifts a trophy in the sky, blue and white.
That victory acted like a massive psychological release valve. The unbearable pressure lifted, the team dynamic completely shifted. They stopped looking at him as a solitary savior who had to fix everything by himself and started treating him as a beloved elder statesman they were willing to bleed for.
And that exact psychological shift set the stage for the ultimate prize, which was the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar.
Oh man, the 2022 World Cup.
The 2022 World Cup performance is something that will be studied for generations. To understand what he did at the age of 35 is staggering. By this point, he couldn't run for 90 minutes like he used to, so he adapted.
How so?
If you watched him in Qatar, he spent large portions of the game literally walking around the pitch.
Walking?
Yes, walking. But he wasn't being lazy. He was constantly scanning, mapping the spatial awareness of the defenders, finding the exact pockets of space where he could inflict maximum damage with just 1 or 2 touches.
And the numbers validate that genius. He scored 7 goals in the tournament. He became the first player in the history of the sport to score in the group stage, the round 16, the quarterfinal, the semifinal, and the final of a single World Cup. He was the pulsing heartbeat of every single Argentine attack.
He was everywhere they needed him to be.
He won his second Golden Ball as the tournament's best player, making him the only man to ever win 2.
He also broke massive longevity records during that run. In the final, he broke the all-time record for most World Cup appearances, playing in his 26th game. And he outranked the legendary Italian defender Paolo Maldini for the most total minutes played in World Cup history, logging an absurd 2,314 minutes across his career.
And that final against France, I mean, it is widely considered the greatest, most dramatic soccer match ever played. It's a heavyweight fight. Argentina takes the lead. Francis Mbappe brings them back. It goes to extra time. Messi scores again. Mbappe ties it again.
It was so stressful to watch.
It goes to a penalty shootout. And this time, there's no missed penalty like in 2016. There is no heartbreak. Argentina wins. The image of Messi draped in a traditional Qatari bishta ceremonial robe kissing the golden trophy is permanently etched into the history of humanity.
It was the culmination of a lifetime of carrying a nation's expectations. He had essentially completed the game of soccer. There was literally nothing left for him to win.
And let's look at a fascinating modern metric to illustrate the sheer global magnitude of that moment. Hours after the final, Messi posts a photo on Instagram celebrating, lifting the trophy above his head. That single post became the most liked post in the history of the internet, accumulating over 74.7 million likes.
That's just wild.
A few days later, he posted a photo of himself sleeping in bed with the trophy tucked under his arm, and that became the third most liked post in internet history. The entire globe stopped to watch this man achieve his destiny.
You would think after that he would walk away.
Right.
He had his World Cup. He had his peace. He had nothing left to prove to Maradona's ghost, to Argentina, or to the world. But that brings us to the present day in our narrative, July 2026, the last dance.
Fast forward to right now. The 2026 World Cup is being hosted across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. The world is watching to see if a 39-year-old man can do the impossible and defend the title.
Entering this tournament, he matches his great rival, Cristiano Ronaldo, by playing in his 6th World Cup. Only the two of them have ever achieved that level of longevity. But age is an undeniable factor.
Yeah, you can't outrun time.
The sources note he came into the tournament dealing with significant muscle fatigue in his left hamstring. There were very real questions from the press about whether his body could hold up through a grueling month-long tournament.
But then, the opening match happens on June 16th, 2026. Argentina is playing Algeria. What does the 39-year-old with a bad hamstring do? He scores a hat-trick in a 3-0 win.
A hat-trick.
And for those who might not know, a hat-trick means one player scoring 3 goals in a single game. It is a rare and incredibly difficult feat, and to do it at 39 years old on the biggest stage in the world is mind-boggling. With those 3 goals, he tied the German striker Miroslav Klose for the most all-time World Cup goals with 17.
It was a vintage performance. But it's important we don't romanticize everything. Our sources reveal a distinctly dark side to that Algeria match. It wasn't just a highlight reel of beautiful goals. During the second half, in a moment of intense physical battling, Messi appeared to deliberately kick an opposing Algerian player in the calf behind the play.
Wow. Behind the play.
It was an act of frustration or perhaps calculated cynical aggression to send a physical message. And he very narrowly escaped being given a red card by the referee.
I'm really glad you brought that up because it raises a vital point. It shatters this illusion that he's some flawless, emotionless alien. Even the greatest heroes have moments where the pressure, the physical exhaustion, or the dark arts of the game take over. It reminds us that he's a deeply, fiercely competitive human being whose desire to win can sometimes cross the line into aggression.
Absolutely. He escapes the red card, and from there, Argentina goes on a dramatic, exhausting run through the knockouts.
Walk us through that run.
Our sources detail an incredible path that tests every ounce of their endurance. In the newly expanded round of 32, they carefully navigate past a resilient Cabo Verde side. Then, in the round of 16, they face Egypt in what becomes a grueling tactical stalemate, before Argentina pulls off a thrilling late comeback victory. In the quarterfinals, they systematically dismantle Switzerland.
And then comes the semifinal against England. This is where the physical toll really showed. It was a bruising, highly physical encounter. England tried to bully him off the pitch.
But this is where the team dynamic we talked about earlier shined.
Exactly. You had Rodrigo de Paul, a tough Argentine midfielder who essentially acts as Messi's unofficial bodyguard on the pitch, constantly protecting him, doing the dirty running, taking the hits so Messi could conserve his energy. Together, they willed the team to an epic comeback victory to reach the final.
Which sets the stage for what we are all anticipating. Looking ahead to this Sunday, July 19, 2026, the World Cup final at the massive New York, New Jersey Stadium. It will be Argentina versus Spain.
The narrative poetry of this specific matchup is just Brilliant. Spain is the country that raised him. It's the country that paid for his medical treatments when no one else would.
Right.
But even more poetically, playing for the Spanish national team right now is a teenager named Lamine Yamal. He is a 19-year-old absolute sensation who actually came up through the exact same Barcelona La Masia academy as Messi.
It is the ultimate changing of the guard imagery. You have the 39-year-old undisputed master playing perhaps his final game, facing off against the 19-year-old prodigy who learned his craft in the very house that Messi built. It is a cinematic, almost scripted climax to a legendary career.
We will all be glued to our screens for that final. But as we wrap up this deep dive, I want us to step away from the pitch for a moment. Because to fully understand his legacy, we have to look at the man off the pitch. Despite living in the hyper-connected, social media-obsessed modern era, he has remained fiercely, almost stubbornly private.
He really has. He isn't in the tabloids. In 2017, he married Antonella Rocuzzo. And what's beautiful about their relationship is that she isn't a celebrity model he met in a VIP club in Paris or Miami. She is his childhood sweetheart. He met her in their hometown of Rosario when he was just 5 years old. They have 3 sons together, Tiago, Mateo, and Shiro. His entire world outside of soccer revolves around that tight-knit family unit.
And he quietly uses his immense wealth and platform for good without making a massive spectacle of it. He formed the Leo Messi Foundation back in 2007 to help provide healthcare and education to disadvantaged youths. And he serves as a goodwill ambassador for UNICEF, fighting for children's rights globally.
When you try to summarize his legacy on the pitch, the statistics simply run out of context. 8 Ballon d'Or awards. The most assists in the history of football, proving he was as much a creator as a goal scorer. 40 major club trophies.
It's hard to even comprehend those numbers.
He literally broke the tactical frameworks of the game. As the English legend Wayne Rooney said, Messi is a joke, the best joke my eyes have ever seen.
That's a great quote.
Or, as the fiercely competitive Bulgarian striker Hristo Stoichkov famously put it, they once said you could only stop me with a pistol. Today you need a machine gun to stop Messi.
But I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocative thought. It's something we haven't explicitly explored yet, but it echoes deeply through all of our source material. Listen to these 2 quotes from Messi himself. First, regarding his childhood, he said, "I wasn't teased as a child for my size. In fact, I think I had more affection because I was small."
Okay.
And second, regarding his mindset today, he said, "I have fun like a child in the street. When the day comes when I'm not enjoying it, I will leave football."
Those 2 quotes are incredibly revealing. They reframe his entire origin story. We spent so much time talking about his size as a disadvantage that he had to overcome.
Exactly. We live in an era of hyper-optimized, physically engineered super athletes. Everything from their diet to their sleep to their biomechanics is measured, mapped, and maximized for sheer physical dominance. But does Messi's story prove something entirely different?
It really makes you wonder.
Does it prove that the greatest advantage in sports isn't physical size or engineered strength? Instead, is the ultimate weapon the psychological armor forged by childhood adversity, combined with the pure, unadulterated, uncoachable joy of just playing in the street with your brothers?
It's a profound question to chew on. In a modern sporting world dominated by machines and metrics, the greatest player of all time is the one who never lost the soul of a tiny kid playing in the dust.
That brings us right back to those dusty streets of Rosario where we started. Thank you so much for joining you and us on this deep dive into the life of Lionel Messi. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and above all, stay curious. We'll see you next time.